The induction of the African Union took place during Prime Minister Modi's opening presidential comment at the G20 summit that was held in New Delhi. The current president of the African Union, Azali Assoumani of Comoros, warmly embraced the Prime Minister before occupying his seat. Republic spoke to the Consulate General of Comoros on this. Let's listen in.
One of the biggest takeaways from India's G20 presidency is the inclusion of African Union as the permanent member to the G20 group. A key person who has spent his time, energy and effort in cultivating the India-Africa relationship is Mr. Kanhaiya Lal Ganju, born in India and Honorary Consul General of Comoros. Thank you, Mr. Ganju, for speaking to Republic. My first question to you is, now the G20 group will be called G21. What's your first response after the inclusion of African Union to the Economic Forum?
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. Like I have been saying since last 3 days, about what has happened is made a history. And the history more specially because it has happened during the tenure of our president as the President of the African Union, which we call Chair of the African Union. African Union, as you know, is a continent which has 55 countries. And you are not making African Union as member, you are getting 55 countries along with it. It is a win-win situation for both G20 and the African Union and the African people.
So, Mr. Ganju, when did, as you said that it was the history. When did Mr. President Azali Assoumani got to know that there's a consensus and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's proposal has been unanimously accepted by all the G20 members? Was it the morning of G20 summit or a day before or much earlier?
This is a very tricky question to answer. Though I know the answer, but I think I should not divulge the real story behind it. I can only say that on the opening day of G20 at 10:45 a.m., the first thing the Prime Minister of India did was to announce inclusion of African Union into the G20 organization and invite the President of Comoros, who is the Chair of African Union at the moment, to the head table and exchange the pleasantries, which was a very joyous moment for all of us. We sitting in the auditorium and looking at it. It was a great moment. It is a great moment for Africa. It is a great moment, especially for the Comoros, because it has happened when the President of Comoros is Chair of the Africa.
According to you, this time was the right time to include African Union as the permanent member of the G20 group, or it should have happened much earlier?
You see, as a matter of fact, any good thing happening at any time is a right time. But it should have happened before. And what were the circumstances it did not happen, that I cannot answer. But late than never, the G20 countries, which is a combination of great countries in the world, having a GDP of more than 75%, having the most industrialized nations as members. Now adding another 55 countries to that, adding African Union to the G20 and making it G21 will definitely be win-win situation for G20 country members and as well as the African Union.
One thing which I really want to ask is about Delhi Declaration also, because it was successfully adopted and passed. What role did AU play in Delhi Declaration? What are your thoughts about Delhi Declaration and how is this declaration different from other declarations?
You know, I have not read the declaration yet because I didn't get time. Anything which is done with consensus has to be good. And this, I think, is one of the very few declarations, and of course the credit goes to the chair, that is India, to Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi. I definitely give credit to him for this. When there is a consensus on the declaration, 20 countries agreeing to the same thing makes a big ticket, result. So therefore, things will come out, things will be resolved, whatever has been decided has to be taken forward by Brazil now. So I hope that things will improve and it will be better for the world.